And then the last part of the book, which is really interesting to me, is the idea of the Beatific vision and consummation. That the Beatific vision, Bavinck would argue, in the last day, is not an unmediated intellectual vision of the essence of God, but rather consists in our covenant fellowship with the Lord Jesus Christ. Because redemption is ethical, not ontological, we're not deified, and neither is God's essence somehow accessible to us, but rather we will commune with the incarnate Christ. That's the Beatific vision. So his analogy for that is more like marriage rather than ontological fusion or confusion of the natures of the divine and the human. He calls this a Protestant principle because he thinks that it's a federalist argument in the sense that our Beatific vision, our consummate end with God, this fellowship we have with God, is covenantal and ethical in character. So it's a communion of persons rather than a commingling of natures, which he would associate with some medieval scholastic traditions and also even some strands within the Reformed tradition he would disagree with. Now, there's been a big kerfuffle about the Beatific vision in scholarly literature, and so I try to engage that. We think about Hans Boersma's work, who critique Bavinck on this sort of stuff, for instance. But I try to defend it and say, in Bavinck's understanding, the Protestant trajectory was to emphasize a covenant fellowship with Christ in the last day, rather than an ontological, we can have some kind of participation with the divine nature.
Okay, so I was about to just wrap things up, but now I have a question.
Okay.
Because what would have been the Beatific vision had there been no fall?
Would there be a Beatific vision had there been no fall? Bavinck would argue only insofar as we would have an anthropomorphic still fellowship with God. But in Bavinck's argument, we would have that fellowship with God only and through the representation of Adam in some way. And God will still condescend in some way.
So Adam would have been the mediator?
Adam would have been a mediator, but it would not have been, again, an ontological seeing of God.
Right, okay.
So the point here is that we never have access to the divine nature as such.
Right.
So he's not going to speculate about what exactly that would mean, but we do know that given God's decrees, the incarnation was a central way in which we can now see that fellowship with God is climactically had.